I'll put it this way. An analogy would be you're like a spare tire. It's not exactly a pretty analogy, but you are, because you're in the trunk waiting to do your job, and you have to be ready at a moment's notice to do your job, which is make the car run, which is the show. And if you're not ready, then the show is, or the car is not able to go. So your job is to watch the show, to be prepared, to take notes on your people that you're covering, and to stay up on it, because you really don't get rehearsals that often. I mean, you're just expected to know it. And that was a challenge for me because I've never done it before, and I probably won't ever again, but it taught me a good skill. And anything I do now, it's going to be a lot easier because I'm used to knowing 5 different parts at the same time, so one part is nothing now. Right now, officially, I know 3 tracks first. My second tracks, I will know 3 more, and then the third tracks, I'll know 3 more. It goes in order of, each girl has their first tracks, their second tracks, and their third tracks. If something happens to one girl, then the next person does that track. And if something happens to that girl, then the third person would do that track. It's, so 3, really. And Carlotta is the main character that I understand. It was difficult at first. Once you know 1 or 2, it gets much easier because you know how to narrow it down to what you have to focus on. It's not that hard after a while. The first time you go on in a track is the hardest time because you obviously have never done it ever with everybody and the costumes and the lights and the sound. And then once you've done it, it's much easier to do any other track because you kind of get a feeling of, you just put yourself in a different character. I mean, you have to kind of develop a little character for this track and this track and this track.
The show if you're not on stage.
Read, watch things on my little computer, talk to swings, talk to people, watch the show. I think I have to kill someone.
And if it was
but maybe someday I'll be put on for Ursula by the grace of God. I remember feeling completely in shock that I was A, going to be on Broadway finally, B, making my debut as a principal, and C, I had been in New York for 8 years and I was finally getting my Broadway break. And it was, I remember walking down 10th Avenue and my agent calling me and saying, "So, Beauty wants you to be Babette." And I remember asking, "On tour?" And he said, "No." And I said, "Wait, the understudy?" "No." "You mean the role on Broadway?" "Yes." And I literally, my mouth just dropped open and I was like, oh my God. And I just started crying and laughing at the same time. And I said, "Can I call my mom?" And he said, "Yes." And I called my mom and left this ridiculous message on her answering machine, which she still has on there saved, and crying. I said, "Mom, call me." And it's really been a dream come true. And it was wonderful. Some fun years of my life. I was dancing in the tango with Lumiere and I slipped on one of my feathers around the bottom of my skirt and literally landed on my backside with my feet up in the air, feathers everywhere, and center stage Broadway. And Peter Flynn was the Lumiere at the time, and he had to just pick me up basically because I was a mass of feathers and legs and hair and whatever else I was on my body, and he pulled me up and we kept going, but it was very embarrassing.
Those opposable thumbs on the candles really helped, didn't it?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Well, he's a gentleman
We were
anyway.
both completely helpless. I met my boyfriend.
Big. How did I know
Very
that was
much.
coming up?
Yeah, that was a pretty favorite. Oh God, that's such a hard question because I loved them all. I don't have a favorite. I have specific memories of everyone. Peter, I just mentioned, Peter Flynn, who was just my angel. Like, he was there when I first got in. He was so loving and fun and talented that he just made it so easy for me and was just so loving and funny, just brilliant. And gosh, Brett Shuford was a really fun understudy. When he went on, because we're friends, so we just had a ball together. And John Tartaglia, obviously, is just John. He's just wonderful. And I'd say probably those three are my favorites, if I can do that. They're all great. Camelot with Steve Blanchard and Robert Goulet. And maybe, I guess My Fair Lady with Rex Harrison, back in the 50s. I wasn't even an egg yet, but that would be really great.